Who gave you that first drift experience? Like, who was that person for you?
I went to every single drift event without a car for like 3 years. Yeah, we it was more the track, but then as I got around more people, yeah, we went street drifting, all that kind of stuff.
Allegedly.
Yeah, right.
Allegedly.
A normal driver would never do that.
You know, I never expected people to say something like that.
Because that's tough on your body and racing stuff on your wallet.
I take it as both your parents are like big car enthusiasts.
No.
Is it expensive to do Pro-Am? Like,
No, it's really cheap.
Thank you for joining another Slush Motorsports Podcast. We are still here in Florida. We have two special guests with us today. I'm very excited about who we're going to be having a conversation with today. They have a lot of insight on the drift side of things and also just car culture in general. I'm happy to have my co-host here with me, Hunter. Thank you for being here with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Also, of course, my name is Phil. Before we go ahead and get started with this podcast, please go ahead and check the link below. Check out our merchandise on our website. We will be having Slush Motorsports hats on there and some more of our Slush Motorsports merch. But without further ado, I would love to introduce Matt Shulman.
What's up, guys?
Chris Beckett.
What's up?
Thank you guys for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man.
How you guys
Pleasure.
doing?
Good.
Great.
Chilling. Feeling good.
Chilling, really chilling. You can see we have our jackets
It is
on.
a little chilly, but it's nice.
Yeah, we're in Florida. Like, this should be like Colorado weather, but
Yeah.
surprisingly, we're in Florida. This is my first time here.
It's better than being hot, though. In the summer
No
here,
kidding.
it's not fun.
Yeah, it's probably crazy hot out here.
Yeah, I
As the
can't-
podcast goes, it's going to keep getting colder and colder, too. The sun's setting right now.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well, we're prepared.
We'll be all right.
I look like I'm
We'll all
in like
live.
a snowman jacket.
Bundled
So are you guys both from Florida, like born and raised?
I am,
Absolutely.
yes. Yep.
Okay. Matt, go ahead and tell us how you got into car culture, your background,
Oh, man.
and what it means to be a car enthusiast.
Okay, well, first off, I'm Matt Shulman, 27 from Orlando or Claremont, Florida, where we are now, born and raised. I got into cars because of Subarus, the WRX, all-wheel drive stuff when I was younger. I was obsessed with them. But at the same time, I had the all-wheel drive car, but all my friends had the drift cars. I was around it for a long time before I got my own cars and stuff like that, my own drift cars.
What age was this?
I got my Subaru when I was 17.
17?
But I was around all of those cars because all my friends got their Subarus and Evos and stuff before I got my WRX.
Dang.
But they also had drift cars and stuff. I've been around it for a long time before I even got the Subaru, and then years later got the 240. But basically, long story short, I got the Subaru, had it for years, but I was always around drifting for a long time. The Njiku guys, I had local friends, like I was always around it, but I never had the car to do it for some reason. But I always knew I wanted that. And then
What was it that introduced you into drifting? Was it Tokyo Drift?
no,
That's what it was for me.
A lot of people-
watching that
Same,
movie.
actually.
Yeah,
a lot of
Tokyo
people have
Drift.
that, but
Yeah.
I never was big on it. I like it. I respect
What?
it now. I never really was in it when I was younger, honestly.
Are you
I've
into it
seen
now?
Yeah, I like
Okay.
it. But like, I am more of a doing. I got to do it until I
Yeah.
like it. Like I can like it when I really do it. I'm like, okay, now I'm set on this. But
Right.
then of course, I was friends with Adam for years, and we got into drifting from BMX and stuff like that. And then, but again, I had people in drifting before that, and then he got into it and like really got me way into it.
Yep.
Then everybody was growing up at the same time in BMX, and a lot of BMX riders as well also got into drifting. So like we were all kind of like transitioned into the car stuff.
Well, people are tired of getting hurt, I guess. Right?
Tired of getting hurt, and then it was more just what everybody was doing.
Who gave you that first drift experience? Like, who was that person for you?
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. Oh, well, actually, there was a few people in the OSW, Greg Jones, I forgot the other guys' names, but a few other guys, Greg Jones, like two other guys. Keegan was a guy at
Florida OGs right there.
at OSW back in like 2016-ish. And they were just wild missile cars, but they drove very well. And I rode in the cars a lot. And that was my first like real ride-along stuff back in those days.
Did
Were
you
they-
just like...
Were they S chassis or BMW or?
No, they were like super clapped out BMWs.
Keegan
that
had an
were
E46.
hilarious.
Yeah, it looked like it barely even
E46.
rolled. It was,
Yeah, but it was fast.
it was.
Okay.
It was sick. And then
Did you
Greg
just like
had a
walk up to
IC100
them and was
stuff.
like, yo, I like your car?
I went to every single drift event without a car for like 3 years, and made friends just hanging out and being there. yeah. So
And was that culture confined to the track, or did you guys go out street drifting?
I mean, yeah, we it was more the track, but then as I got around more people, yeah, we went street drifting, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But nothing crazy with that. But mostly,
Allegedly.
yeah, right.
Allegedly.
In Mexico, sure. But no, it was just like I knew I loved it the first day I was there. Like anybody gets in drifting, they know when they go to the track,
The smells, the sounds,
Oh, yeah.
it all comes together.
The vibes.
you're ruined.
Yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
How long have you guys known each other?
We met each other like I think it was like my third drift event at Auburndale.
Wait, we were at the same Learner's Day.
I think I met you at Auburndale. No, for sure met you at Auburndale, and we did the learners day
Okay,
like right
so
after
maybe it was
that.
like that. That was
Okay.
Yeah.
a long time ago. But like
Super long time ago.
him and his dad do like all the drift stuff. They both have drift cars, so it's really cool.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was by myself, and I saw them there, and they were in Claremont, where I live as well,
Yeah.
like my local town. We made friends from there, and
Oh, yeah.
from then on, and yeah, literally like at the first Learner's Day, like OSW Drift has like learner instructor days,
Yep.
and I was there, and he was there, and his dad was there, and
Yeah, me and my dad were both driving.
both
that's right.
driving the same that 13
Yeah,
back
the one
there.
that's torn apart back
Yeah.
there.
So I take it as both your parents are like big car enthusiasts.
No, his
No.
like
My
his
dad
parents.
is, but I definitely like he was more so. I was more so into cars than he was. I definitely got him more into it as time went on. I
Right.
guess.
Yeah.
Right.
my parents no. I mean, my dad likes cars like any man does, but like
Of course.
I'm the only like automotive like person in my family. There's no one else but me.
Yeah.
That's
Did
wild.
that kind of make you the black sheep? Or
Yeah.
Were they pretty supportive?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they don't get like I'll be on my computer doing emails for days straight for sponsorships and like how are you that busy? And I'm like,
you don't get it.
Trust
you
the
don't know.
process.
next year coming up, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, now
This
this
is what he was
all
doing.
makes sense.
Yep.
You know?
Well, and like typically when people get into car culture, like, well, I guess it's different now, but I'll say back then they start at the car meets.
oh yeah.
But now you can actually just start online because everybody sees everything
Yep,
online.
Exactly.
Did you ever go to car meets? Like you just popped up at the racetrack? Like that's pretty huge for you
I mean,
to just
Yeah, I mean,
go straight.
like I said, I wasn't like the Subaru car meet group thing when I was younger in high school. I was in high school with Deborah X, and I was out street racing in Mexico
Oh, okay. So
until
you
3
did-
in the morning.
You did take the
my
Mexico
parents,
lanes.
where are you at? You're gonna be grounded. I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Go to school, 2 hours of sleep from street racing, and never got caught, thankfully. But we did
Yeah.
do that kind of stuff. But I was around that whole vibe and all that when I was younger, and then
The Subarus were more competitive around that time.
Oh,
in
for sure,
like,
yeah.
When it comes to street racing,
No
yeah.
kidding.
But
But, like,
nowadays, probably not.
no,
like,
it's more of the faster rear-wheel drive cars,
Yeah,
some all-wheel drive or
of
Evo
course.
stuff like that. But that's kind of how I got around that back in the day. But it's your turn to talk about yourself now. It's your turn.
It's my turn now.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear about you.
Okay.
How'd you get into it?
How did I get into it?
Car stuff.
I'd say originally, like, I got into car stuff from video games. The main
That's a
one
good
was like
point.
Midnight Club, of
Yes.
course, Need for
Yes.
Speed. But the one that really did me in was Dirt 3. And I don't know if
Oh,
y'all ever
man.
played
I
that.
never played
Yes,
this.
Dude,
I
Dirt
love
3
Dirt
was
3.
so good.
The
Oh,
Jim Connor mode
Yeah.
with Ken Block.
Yeah.
That it was just amazing.
R.I.P.
So
by the way.
Just
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
practice course was incredible to just go mess around on.
so much fun.
Isn't
So-
it crazy how they don't even make games like that no more?
right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Like Dirt still makes games, but they're like simulators basically. Which
Right.
I love a good simulator, of course, but like, come on, like the Dirt games, like the arcade.
But even
feel,
like the
so good.
unrealistic stuff was really fun back
Yeah.
then.
It was,
But,
yeah.
okay, sorry.
And you still got the Need for Speed, but the Need for Speed is all cartoonish now from the
Yeah, it
last game
doesn't
that I
do it-
saw.
no, no, no.
like,
Yeah, I'm talking about the OG ones, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
Nothing hits the same anymore, of course. But,
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was playing those games probably when I was like 12 or so. When I was 12 is when I really got into it. And then after that, it was just kind of I was hooked. Like I was done for at that point, as you would say. But yeah, played games for a bit, and then obviously once I turned 16, that's when I really started going. Or 15 actually is when I got my first drift car.
Right.
It was an E46, the most clapped out the most clapped E46 you could ever imagine.
That car
But at
is funny.
16, you driving a BMW.
Right.
It gets better.
You know what I mean?
It gets better. Hang on. Keep going.
So got that car, and then ended up going to one event in it, and I did a lot of sim driving before that. So after one event, I was already like, okay, I'm done with this car.
Wait, you were doing sim driving at 16?
I
Like,
was.
I didn't get onto sim driving until like,
Last year, 2 years ago.
yeah, 2 years ago. And it's
They'll
ever
do it
since
to you.
COVID, it like boomed and skyrocketed.
Right.
Right.
How was sim driving during that time period?
There definitely was not nearly as much support and like hardware, I guess, as there is now. Like there was no handbrakes. No one made any handbrakes or anything like that.
Right.
Remember I had like a Logitech like aircraft simulator joystick I was using as an e-brake. Yeah, the old G920 Logitech wheel, the OG one, or I guess I think it was it G920 or G29, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and that thing was just I bought it on a marketplace for like $200 and beat the piss out of it for like 3 or 4 years and just
Yep.
I probably sim drove for a solid year. I had probably like a 1,000, 1,500 hours on it before I ever went to the track. So
Wow.
once I went there in that car and, linked it after a few laps, I was like, okay, I'm already ready for something else. And then that's when I happened upon a 5.3 LS swapped S13 that I still have sitting back there. So kind of patched that car up together. It was like a half finished kind of swap deal, patched it together, and then beat the piss out of it for a few years, on and off though, as he was saying. I kind of like got out of it for a little bit. I got busy with personal stuff, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, I guess that's kind of my whole journey. And it's kind of funny that we're talking about this, because there was this one dude named Andrew Grafton. And
Grafton too. Yeah. So that's one of the guys that helped me learn how to drive as well. Grafton, straight out Grafton.
Yeah. So
legend back then.
Adam actually, whenever I started watching his videos, that's when I really started getting into the drifting.
Yeah.
And I was just chilling with my dad in the living room one day when I was like 15, a few months before I bought the E46 I was talking about. And chilling there watching an Adam video with my dad, and my dad's like, "Oh, I know that guy," and I'm like, "Who?" And he's like, "Oh, the guy that's behind Adam there." And I'm like, "Come on, man, stop pulling my leg. Like, there's no way you just know this random guy out of this video that I just happened to show you." Well, sure enough, he's like, "No, I'm gonna call his dad right now." So my dad calls Andrew's dad, and he's like, "Hey, you got Andrew's number?" And he's like, "Or can I get Andrew's number?" He's like, "Of course you can." Gives it to him, calls him. He's like, "Hey, I'm watching you on YouTube right now."
Wow.
And then my dad was like, "Yeah, no, we're kind of interested in this. Like, how do we get into it?" Because him and I always wanted to do some type of motorsport together.
Right.
But like almost every motorsport besides drifting, like the barrier to entry is just so high. Like you have to spend, like, drag cars. Like if you want to be competitive, like you're spending a big chunk of money.
That was actually going to be my next question, is like, why drifting over all the other motorsport activities?
Cost and fun, basically, for me.
Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, it depends on the level.
Sure.
Because, like, pro drifting, you're going to outspend a lot of drag racing.
Oh, no kidding.
I promise.
No
Very
kidding.
true. Yeah.
But then you get to, like, top fuel stuff.
That's
blowing.
a whole nother ball.
You're spending what you make.
Yeah, right.
Spending drifting and pro drifting in a weekend. You spend a year in drifting and drag racing. Like,
No kidding.
Like
Yeah.
it all costs money. But like for me, like drag racing just it's never excited me. I still respect what they do because some of that stuff is crazy. It's just not for me.
I never expected people to say something like that, and then like now I'm coming across more people more often that don't get they don't get the same excitement as I do from drag racing or road racing.
Absolutely.
But I understand it. I get it. I just thought everyone likes that, that straight line
instant
speed.
rush.
Yeah, where it sits you back in the seat.
I'm sure if you go in a fast car, it's like, oh man. But like,
sure.
I promise you put any of those long time drag racers in a pro drift car and tell them to go do a tandem, they aren't going to do that.
Well, what's the fastest car you ever been in?
Oh man. Okay, there's two. So Freddie at Spec Tuned, my tuner tunes my cars and Adam's cars, all that stuff. He had a MK4 Super he just sold, 3.4 stroker, 1,400 horsepower, and he was tuning traction control on the Motec, and I was driving. And I've always wanted a car to scare me. Like I get in cars, oh it's fast, I'm like whatever, and it doesn't scare me. That car was absolutely crazy to drive, and like I get why he got rid of it now, because like you can't put that power down.
Can't put it down.
You're gonna go to jail, one, or B, you're gonna crash,
Yeah.
or C, you won't drive it at full power.
Yeah,
It's cool to say that, but then second fastest car was a Porsche 911 Turbo S 991.
I love the way those things pull.
My friend / like business partner who helps me out had that car a long time ago, and I was a lot less skilled back then. I'll just say that.
Right.
And I used to detail his cars, and I would drive him to my house, and he's like, just drive it, whatever, So I drove to the house, and I got on it one time, and I floored it, and the car just went, whoop, all-wheel drive.
Crazy.
I didn't crash. It's just like, it was nuts. Back then, it was a crazy horsepower.
It's a scary
car.
feeling. It's a one of those feelings you'll remember, like, the whole ride back home. Like, I drove a 1,600 horsepower Mustang.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking 1,600 horsepower to the rear wheels. Like,
Yikes.
you start dancing immediately.
No kidding.
And you can't even put your foot to the ground.
Yeah.
You have to, like, gradually
on the
get in it.
throttle.
Even then, you can't. Only was able to get 30% throttle, I would say.
Yep.
Until I had to let out. Like, that experience was, like, scary.
Yeah.
Like, really scary. But I enjoyed it.
Yep.
And then I never rode in a Supra as fast as the one that you ridden in, 1,400 horsepower.
I drove that
Yeah.
thing. Riding it's scary too, but like driving it is a lot. Plus, when it's not yours and it's like a nice Supra in the country,
I
it's a lot
hear
of
those are
pressure.
super scary.
No kidding.
Yeah,
The Mark IVs, they're like one of the scariest cars to drive.
Yeah, it is gnarly, but it was very dialed too. Though once it like 5 pulls in, I got more confident. I was good.
Right.
But it's fast. But, I mean, it is crazy. Like people do not get like 1,000 horsepower is almost worthless if there's no grip or the tire or the shock or the car and drag, drift, whatever, street
Yeah.
car, like 500 to 700 horsepower is like more than enough for a street car
Yep.
to be fast with, to have fun with. Like
Well-
it's more controllable and way more enjoyable.
Do you enjoy those like high mile per hour entries?
Oh,
Like, would
yeah.
you do 100 mile per hour entry?
Oh, yeah, for
120
sure.
mile per hour entry?
Yeah. Oh, well, faster is always better. Like
I can't wait to see what that feels like.
it's funny. So to speak on that, basically, so like PBIR track down south that closed down. That we used to go there and enter like real fast, like over like probably 120, 130 down the strip, and just huck it in there.
That's crazy.
And I've also entered like 100 and something at Road Atlanta years ago. But since that place closed down, there's nowhere legally you can do that fast of entry in Florida. But now there's a new track in Florida called Leadfoot City over in Brooksville.
It's
and
called
they have
Leadfoot City?
Leadfoot City, yeah.
Leadfoot
It's a new track, and they have like a 100-mile-an-hour entry straight away onto a really big skid pad. So it's real sick. And we had the first event like last month, and I drove there for Dan doing like a media day. We were entering like real fast, and then we had another actual event with normal drivers, and they started entering pretty fast. Not 100, but like everybody was going fast, and like no one's been able to do that for
Top
a
of
while,
30 at least.
unless you're
Right.
out of state. You know.
Well, it's like you don't get to do that in many places, but then it's also like, how do you even train for something like that?
How do I explain this? So like obviously as you're drifting, your skill progresses over the years, and then the cars you're driving makes you progress, and all the above makes you progress. You learn the faster you go, the easier it is almost. You kind of have time to think if you're just doing it for fun. But also when you're in competition or you're tandeming, you're the follow car, there's no time to think, you just do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like in the moment, you just do it. There's things like in when I'm in competition and I'm chasing somebody, and after the lap, I'm like, I have no idea how I just did that. But I did.
You just full
Like,
sent it.
Yeah, it's just like it's muscle memory in all areas when it comes to like training for that. But like training is just seat time, driving, level of car, over and over again.
And then
like,
you just full send.
right.
There you go. And kind of like what we were talking about earlier, the sim. I mean, that's like the only real way to kind of practice
That's
those
a good
high-speed
point.
entries. Is just because there's no consequences.
more of like
course.
hand-on technique kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
What's the fastest drift car you've driven on the track?
Mine?
Okay, and about how much horsepower is this one making?
It makes 810 on kill, but that's like on kill is not like we can go more. We just kept it at 810.
Yeah. So tell us what's going on with this. Like, what you got done to it?
So this is my S13 240SX. It's actually it's my second like running drift car I got as a missile years ago, and I've never built a new car from the ground up. But like over the years of my skill and what I've wanted to do with drifting, this thing's progressed now into like a 800 horsepower pro car, pro-am, pro spec, whatever you want to call it. It is a 1.5 JZ, fully built, CP pistons, Brian Crower internals, ACL race bearings, built by Jay at RS Garage. So
Nice.
this thing it can make like, it can hold 12 horsepower motor wise. But and a Garrett 235 1050 turbo, and Freggy at Spec Tune tunes the car, and it's just a monster with the fuel suspension, the Wise Fab, ECU Master, ECU, like really no tires, one ethanol fuel, like all the good brands just making this thing real crazy. Like it is really good for what it is. But we can always do more. And every year I'm like, okay, it should be good. And then like 2 weeks later, we got to do this now.
And
You know,
aside,
it's just
aside from the motor and the power, do you feel comfortable in the chassis and the setup with the grip?
Oh yeah, for sure. I get in my head and I go to comps and I'm like, oh, I got to practice. And then like I do like 3-4 laps. I'm like, okay, I'm good. Because like I'd rather go do 3-4 laps and just feel comfortable and be good. And then instead of like doing too much, to put too much in the car or get in my head. That's at Pro-Am. If I go to Pro Spec and Pro, I'm driving every single lap.
Yeah.
But like when I feel confident, I know when to stop. But like that's at the Pro-Am level for me. But I'm very confident in this car. Like I can not drive for a year and go out and do a qualifying lap of like a 90-something and without any practice really.
Let's say your favorite saying, man. Come on.
What is it?
A car enthusiast
S
should know their
chassis.
car.
S chassis, best chassis.
There you go. There it is.
S chassis, best chassis.
I don't care how old they
Okay.
are. S chassis, best chassis. They're
There you
great.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
A lot of our viewers agree with that as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of chassis you can get into, and there's now like I love S chassis, but like how to brand yourself and to get sponsors. Like they've been sponsoring S chassis for 20 plus years now, and it's getting to the point where it's gonna be okay. What's next? And there's other cars now. It's just like the thing is like you get new cars or like do too much, and then for example, I have this car, and then I build an FRS or a BMW or whatever or a Z, and then I'm awful in that chassis. And that's happened multiple times in Formula Drift and any kind of drifting over the years, where you've seen like, hey, he was way better in that car than this car.
Right.
So stay where it's comfortable and keep it simple.
Well, what leads you to make the choice to say I'm gonna build the motor? Like, do you wait till you blow it up?
Oh,
usually
times,
what
like,
happens.
So I mean, like again, like these cars are monsters when it gets to a certain level. A stock motor car, you can do it to a certain level. I'd say like Pro-Am's like your max.
Sure.
now, or like Grid Life is like your max now, or like Slush, your events, like all that, like that's your max when you do a stock motor. Depends on the horsepower too. But when you're getting in like high horsepower stuff, like the stock motors, like cannot handle the abuse that you think they can. They will for a while, and they'll just get tired and lose compression. Just kind of be done. Plus, like compression.
Unless it's a LS.
I mean, LS is like, just as much as anything else you've ever seen in your life. You'd be real surprised.
I don't know, that 5.3 in my car was a trooper,
Listen,
man.
Yeah, you
at
can beat
300
the crap
horsepower,
out
you'll
of
last
those
for
things.
30 years.
Yeah.
When you make 500 plus, you're not going to last a long time.
100%.
They will.
Valid point.
But like in a drift car, like in a pro drift car, like this motor, like it's a fresh motor right now. Like I could probably get 2 seasons out of it. But after the first season, I'm going to take it apart, make sure it's good, and continue on.
Yeah.
But and also the main part of it is reliability.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go out and spend, starting at probably $50,000 a year doing Pro-Am or Pro Spec, and then into Pro, where it costs millions, almost millions, over time.
Yeah.
And with a not a good engine package. You
Right.
have to have
Speaking
a
of
good engine
LS,
package.
what do you have in the S13? Is it an LS still?
Yeah, it's a stock bottom end 5.3 LM7. So it's like a truck motor. Like it came out of an O2 Tahoe way back in the day. It's like an O2 Tahoe.
Right.
Do you plan to just keep it that way until
For
you break
now,
it?
for now, I'm putting new ring. While I have the engine out, I'm putting new rings in it, new pistons, just typical stuff. Besides typical stuff you can do besides fully building it, because I don't have forged internal money right this second. I'm gonna keep it relatively simple. Gonna shoot for around like 400 wheel or so for now.
That's plenty.
Yeah, right. For
good.
grassroots,
Yeah,
it's perfect.
especially.
That's what I'm going
Yeah.
for. Like what we were talking about, your guys' events. I plan on doing that. Clutch kickers, hopefully. We'll just have to see how things go. But I think 400 will be plenty for that.
Yeah, we definitely hope to see you out there. That'll be
I'd love
fun.
to, man.
Yeah.
Be a blast.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Endless Garage, opening spring 2025. Endless Garage is where luxury cars, high-performance maintenance, and premium vehicle storage come together. Discover Club Endless, an exclusive space for car enthusiasts, and indulge in the unforgettable Driven Steakhouse. Endless Garage isn't just a place, it's an experience. Visit endlessgarage.com to learn more. Link below. Well, speaking of like motors, you made an interesting point. You said you expected to last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
How much of an impact does it make for you as a driver if you expected to last 2 seasons and then let's say it doesn't last?
Been there.
Like
No,
yeah.
it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
So I have had over the past years, like I had many engine failures, and like if you have to have the supporting mods, good people around you, and just like have it dialed. Like I've had many built engines, but the supporting mods, as in the fuel system or the tuning, or your oiling system, or this or that.
Or wiring
that is,
harnesses.
wiring harnesses. Like if that's junk, you're gonna have junk results.
100%.
So I've learned that, and I've known that, but I didn't have like the funds back in the day. I did what I could, but I've worked to the point to where I can work with companies to where I get the quality parts. I don't have these problems anymore. But again, anything can happen. Like anything can happen. But like over the years, I've tried to finally dial in all the above: fuel system,
Right.
tuning, ECU, engine building, engine internals, all of that. And now that we have JF Mars Garage, but in my engines, I'm at ease. I don't worry about it. Even my friends used to slap them together,
Right.
and they wouldn't work. But now we have the rear sump, which is great for high horsepower JZs. Front sump JZs in a drift car will break at some point,
Right.
and
What-
then you gotta go dry sump, and now we do rear sump because there's no oil starvation in rear sump, and it'll outlast a lot of things.
What would you say are the brands that produce those quality parts? Like, can you give us a list of who you think?
I work with Brian Crowder on BC. They're legends in the sport with engines. Brian Crowder, I've met him many times. He's an awesome guy. He loves it, and he makes probably the best internals for many engines, especially JZs. I also work with CP Carrillo, and their pistons and rods are awesome. I run their pistons in my car, but Brian Crowder rods. And then I have ACL race bearings. and BC cams as well. Like, and the quality of that, I've never had problems with any of their parts breaking. It's been just the supporting mods killing a piston or spinning a bearing from oil starvation. Like, their parts always hold up. It's just like the supporting mods that have killed a motor for me.
Right.
But now with all the above dialed in, we're chilling. It's great. It rips, and we can always push more.
Yeah, I was so worried the first day with his new engine because it was at Sebring.
Yeah, that's a stressful day.
Yeah,
the first day.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I was shaking for him.
I had a lot of issues, like I said, but then always bad luck. But then again, I've worked to where I'm like, okay, I'm dialed. And this past Pro-Am season, motor was great. I mean, we had a lot of events in that motor.
First event, it was nothing but fuel and tires.
I mean, all of them, all the events until round 3.
Yeah, true, actually.
It was perfect. No, not a single problem.
Is it expensive to do Pro-Am? Like,
no, it's really cheap.
Okay.
No, it's very expensive.
Can you give us a breakdown?
Very expensive. But yeah, with the motor stuff, like, then that's one thing. Like, you get a budget for the season, tires, fuel, stay, this, that.
Yep.
Then a motor goes, then what? Now you just doubled your.
Yeah, that adds a lot of stress.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, like, I lost the motor at round 3 at OSW because, that much horsepower on a front sump pan on a bank track.
Yep.
Like, bank tracks are worse because you're on a bank. So high RPM on a JZ and front sump at 800 horsepower, you're eventually gonna have an issue. There's people that have luck with it, that do well, and it works. But like, when that broke, the second that happened, that's why I had no license right now, because I lost a lot of points that round, and I was like, okay, the best I can do right now is just borrow a car of some sort,
Right.
because I didn't qualify or do the seating bracket in this car, and get points. I did that. I got top 16 points.
How does that qualifying process works? Like, if someone wants to get into FD, because that's essentially what you're talking about, right?
Oh man, yeah, it's
like,
a long,
you gotta get
it's a
points,
long,
get your
tedious thing.
license.
Yeah, so to get in the Formula Drift, you have to either have a following in social media.
What
some
type
skill.
of following? We talking like
I mean,
10,000?
I mean, in
20,000?
car
Good
culture,
question.
like you're gonna. This is a decent following. I don't know the exact number, but like if they know who you are, you go to all the events, they'll probably, work with you. But it's also a very, very small margin of people that can get into it. They give out, I think, 6 or so licenses a year into Pro Spec, but essentially you have to go to Pro-Am, and each series gives out 1 license, and then depending on the series, I think it's first in the championship in points out of the whole year gets a license. And that's what it was at mine. I missed a spot by 1 spot because I lost that motor around 3, and that killed me. But rewinding back, round 1 of Pro-Am, there was bad weather, and it pushed the track time too late, and the track shut us down, and we couldn't finish the event. And I was going into the finals to hopefully win.
Right.
If I would have been able to finish that event, I would have got my license potentially, a better chance of. And then, it didn't happen. So
It sounds like 2026 though is gonna happen.
in 2026, I'm hoping to be in Formula Drift. Yeah, 2025, my goal is to just go in Pro-Am and get my license. Go to all the Pro-Ams I can on this side of the country and get my license. Once I get the license, I'm gonna do more fun events and just have fun and do my thing. If I don't get it quick, I'm gonna do all the Pro-Ams I can until I get it, and then do as much as I can if I don't get it, and petition in for 26. I tried petitioning last year, but it just didn't work out. But it's a constant battle.
It's a constant battle.
It's people don't understand. It's a lot of work. Like, I'm one person, and I do a lot of stuff to make this stuff happen, and so do a lot of others. It's just it never stops.
Well, are you expecting things to get more challenging once you do make it into FD?
Oh, it gets worse. That's the thing. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
Higher
drifting,
budget, bigger
we all
team.
love it. Yeah, and like my goal, I've had friends go on the Formula Drift, or people that I've seen, and they go and they last 1 or 2 years, and like, I don't want to do that. I could have tried.
That's a great point.
I could have tried years ago. I just didn't want to be that guy that goes in for a year or 2 and then you vanish.
Gosh,
So
that's a really
I've
good
tried
point.
to be patient, and I've also haven't been able to do that because of the funds to do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both worked out.
Yeah.
And now I'm working my way up to where I can afford it with sponsors and people
Yep.
to help me get to that
You
level.
have that solid foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. I want to dial that in to where I can hopefully have a separate life from drifting and have the funds to do drifting.
So do you see yourself getting a fun car to go to these events?
Yeah,
and
I'm
just
working on that.
have a missile and
I'm probably gonna have. Well, it's gonna be a nice
C-type
car. We're getting another car, and it's gonna be really good. And it's nicer than this car, but it's not as it's a stock motor, 2J car that's
Got another
done.
2J.
Oh, I'm never gonna get away from that. But I would like to get a cheaper car just to mess around, like a G or a Z, just to mess with. But like, They're fun for like 3 laps for me.
Do you like
I'm
RBs?
sure, huh?
You like RBs?
They sound good, but I'll never own one ever.
Why?
They're just more money than a Jay-Z, and I don't have much experience with them, but they do sound good.
Yeah.
But I like torquey engines, and RBs take a lot to make torque.
What about the SRs?
They're pretty cool. I mean, I like anything really.
Yeah.
But like, I'm a Jay-Z guy at heart. I'll never switch. There's
Yeah.
nothing. There's no point to switch. But like in drifting, I'm saying. But like in a street car, I mean, SRs are cool. Like an SRS chassis, like 400 horsepower, is the best thing ever because it's way lighter.
Are you still in the SR?
I love SRs, but I blew mine and I got convinced to go the
He was
Jay-Z
bouncing
route.
his off the rev limiter. Like,
Rocker arm
it
just
was
tanked
badass.
and just
Rocker arm.
dunzo.
Yep.
Yeah. It depends on, like a stock motor SR, if you have good tuning and good parts, like you can make them last a long time.
Yeah, and I just wasn't smart with mine. I would keep it on the limiter in second and never
The thing
go
is though,
third,
like you
and-
have to. If you're drifting it, you have to keep
Yeah.
it on limiter. Like,
Yeah.
There's no pedaling in drifting. You're beating the crap out of these cars at all times.
I should have dropped the tire size and been less grip for the
Yeah, but then
horsepower
that's not
that
fun.
I had. Yeah, true.
yeah.
Grip is a good thing. I love grip.
My first drift car was a C5 Corvette, and like I
Nice.
never hit the rev limiter.
All
But
the torque.
You don't have
yeah,
to
it was
in
so
that,
torquey.
with that
Yeah.
LS. Yeah.
So then when I hear other people hit the rev limiter, I was like, "What? Am I supposed to be doing that?" I'm like, "There's no way I can do that in that car."
Yeah. It just depends on the cars you're driving. Like
Yeah.
you're always going to be in that high RPM power band and drifting, no matter what you're doing. For me, at least, for sure. But we also have like winners quick changes and we do gear changes per track or
Right.
the grip or the wheel speed we want. Working in Formula Drift has taught me a lot of things to put into my own thing as well. So like, I would never be going to Formula Drift blind when I go drive because I've been working in it for 7 years ish now.
Okay. So is
So-
that when it comes to drifting? What is your XP like 10 years, 12 years for the both of you? Like how many years of experience do you have specifically?
I started, like I said earlier, when I was 16 when the first time I went to the track. So that was
You're almost a decade in.
7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 years into it right now, and I probably took like 2 years. You probably know better.
You
than
took
me.
like
About 2
I
years,
thought more
like,
than that.
like
no?
a solid about 2 years that I
2
that I
years.
was going to the track and stuff, but I wasn't like driving. And it's funny whenever I finally came back into it, it was like, oh, who are all these new people? And
It
it's like
goes
everyone I've
fast.
met pretty much has been super super cool, but it's like it's crazy. Like whenever I first started going to OSW back in like 2017, there'd be max like 30 drivers maybe.
It was a
there
big family,
on
too.
a public day, and everybody knew each other.
Right.
Now, like when I got back into it a couple years ago, it was like everybody's pretty cool for the most part still, but it's like everybody doesn't know each other anymore. It's
Right.
like it was like it was still like that little clique, like community, but like it just wasn't as tight knit. It had like everyone had their little groups instead of
Right.
it being one big group. So
I think it's because of social media. Like you see
Sure.
something online and then
Yeah.
you want to try it out. So we have a lot of people try out the sport, and then like you said, sometimes they don't even last long. Like
Right.
they'll be 1 to 2 years
True.
in, but it's growing. Like the sport's growing fast.
Yeah.
And like even at the pro level, like I like what you brought up. I think about it in the same sense of like the NFL and the NBA. Like
Sure.
most people who go and play professional sports, their average time in the sport is 1 to 2 years.
That's
True.
crazy to think about.
It's really crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I guess because that's tough on your body and racing's tough on your wallet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a good way to say it.
Both is equal to
Yeah.
the same end result. But
Sure.
you've been driving for how long? 3?
Uh,
5 years.
Well, 7 years.
Total.
7 years total. But I'd say like of actual hard driving, probably 3 and a half, 4.
And how much of that did your dad join you at the track?
The whole time. Except he didn't. I've been more so into it for the past year than he has because he's been building his C6 that's out there.
Right there.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that?
That C6 is clean.
Thank you, man. It's gonna look even better once it has the livery and
That's
everything.
dope.
Yeah.
So we got that thing just over 2 years ago. I think it was February of 22, or it was almost
I don't remember.
Yeah, so I thought I remember. So yeah, I think it was like just over 2 years ago, and we bought it, and it was like the cheapest C6 like on Car Gurus or any other car website within a 500-mile radius. That was manual. So we're going down to Sarasota to look at it. We went and looked at it. We're like, okay, we got to snag it. It's a crazy good deal. It was like I think we paid like $14,200 out the door or something. Which now that's not the best price, but like back then
Still
like
great.
that was a great price. Well, once we got it back, like once we got it and started diving into it, that's when we started figuring out why it was so cheap. It was an 05, so anyone that at home that knows,
that's right.
the
Okay.
05 vets, do not buy one if you want a Corvette. They're great cars, but do not get an 05.
07 plus, right?
06 plus
06
at least,
plus,
yeah.
right.
But yeah, do not get an 05 because they got worse diffs.
Which one did you just buy?
07. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
You're great.
Hey,
brother.
66.
You
You're
bought
great.
one like 3 days ago.
But no, it was really funny. Like the first time I ever tried to do a donut in it, right after we installed the Wise Fab in it, like Wise Fab handbrake. Okay, first time ever doing a donut in this car. Soon as I let my foot off the clutch, the transmission didn't even engage all the way. Blew the diff up.
It's funny because
I didn't even.
he
The car
texted
didn't even
me.
roll forward. It
He
literally
got the
just
car,
Man.
and I said, "What year is it? What was it? 05?
05,
05.
yeah.
I said it's gonna break. He goes, "You think so?" That's a typical Chris term. You think so?
Yeah, you think so?
And I'm like, "It's gonna break, dude." Nah, I don't think so. Text me a picture of the diff and oil on the ground.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
like,
So the diff, I didn't blow the
man.
diff. I grenaded it. Like it literally exploded, and I had gear oil all over my brain. Oh, that was even the worst part. We had just paved this parking lot out here when we were building our new building over here. Just paved it. It was the prettiest, widest parking lot you've ever seen. And I get gear oil all over it, and it's like a big long trail too. Because
Dang
once I did it, I rolled like probably 30 foot, and it's just
Right.
like a big snail trail of gear
right,
oil.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the worst.
terrible, but yeah, no. Whenever he bought that car, he told me to help him, do whatever it needs, basically. And he said he wanted to do not like a no budget build, but like a kind of like no corners cut type of deal.
Right.
So that's why I said he did Wise Fab.
Feels.
Field coilovers. They're
Kansai
fantastic,
cage.
by the way. Yeah. Just got it back from getting a cage in it. Yeah, like you said, it's got the Kansai wheels on it. Those have been great. They look great.
Yeah, see the True Focus Fab.
Yeah, True Focus
bash
Fab,
bars.
front and rear bash bar.
Yep.
Can't beat it.
Shout out to Andrew.
Absolutely.
So
But-
you guys got it for 14. Like how much would you say that cost wise like you put into it?
Oh,
Another 20 probably.
more than that.
Yeah.
So now with the cage and everything, like I was just saying, we just got it back from getting a cage put in it. And I mean, to wag a number, it's probably somewhere around like, mid 40s, like to
Wow.
like 50K is probably what he's into it.
Wow. Drift cars get expensive.
Yeah.
You think
'cause-
that's expensive?
No, I can only imagine. Yeah.
But-
Dude, it's crazy.
No, it's just got all the typical like LS bolt-ons. Like it's got headers, fully built heads, just all the preventative stuff, like the ATI super damper, like all the typical stuff you do just to make it reliable.
Yep.
Cammed, of course. It's got a Michigan Motorsports cam. Thing's fantastic. And done 2 events in it so far. And like I said, that it was at my buddy's shop getting a cage put in.
Right.
Now all the little odds and ends are wrapped up on it. Now it's just Pops needs to just drive it. The car's set up for him. It's super easy to drive. It literally, those cars literally feel to me like a 240 with a ton of power and like all the grip you'd want.
more planted.
Like
It's a
very,
newer car.
and they're so wide. Like they're
What's good about it? So
extraordinarily
it's very,
wide.
very like it's light too. It's all fiberglass.
Yeah,
and-
with that 945 kit on it, it's like that thing's huge. So this year is going to be a big year for Pops. I'm really excited for him to kind of get into it and get more into it and get some seat time. I want to be tandeming with him by the end of the year. 'Cause
That's awesome.
We've been into it together for a long time, but I guess we just never got he never got enough seat time to be good enough to tandem with me. So I feel like that'll be
That's gonna be a dream.
absolutely. No, I can't wait to see
no,
it, man.
that'd be really cool.
And did your dad have a drift car prior to this Corvette, or was this his first
no,
one?
Well,
They shared the.
yeah. So
Okay.
he
S13.
didn't
Got a lot
have
of
his
seat
own
time.
car before this one, but we shared the S13 for like 4 years or so. Like the first 4 years we had it, we just kind of shared it,
Okay.
and it was it was a fun car, man.
It was
to
great,
us.
but sometimes like there's dumb issues with the alternator or this or
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Then his dad would get pissed because he wants to drive. Then
Yep.
the small things would take him off track.
Yeah.
That's probably why. I want a vet. I want all the good stuff on it to where I have
absolutely.
no problems.
There you go.
So that's why they're building that car now, and it'll be really good for them.
So
because-
speaking on that, a car with no problems you can just show up to the track with. Do you recommend a Corvette to a guy that's just wanting to get into drifting?
Not at all.
or- Okay.
Not at all. Unless you want to keep it absolutely bone stock and pray.
it's very expensive too, like you said.
I wouldn't, because it's like they're just so hard to work
They
on.
suck
I
to
mean, like
work
if you
on.
blow a diff on a 240 at the track or something, like you can swap
10
it out.
minutes.
You and your buddy can swap it out in like 10, 15 minutes. Well,
But-
maybe longer than that, but like
Yeah.
30 minutes you can usually, like with 2 people, they can swap a 240 diff.
Right.
Those things you gotta like basically drop the subframe.
If you guys don't know, if you watch this, probably know.
Yeah.
that it's a transaxle. So
Yeah, transaxle.
the trans is the diff in the back.
Yeah,
so
it's got like a torque tube. There's no
you don't
drive
wanna-
shaft. It's got a torque tube, and
It's the whole thing.
It's just a pain. So they're really good when they work.
The only car that has really impressed me is Matt Field's vet because he's
Oh, his
still
vet is sick.
he's still transaxle.
He
it's,
has a
it's sequential.
C8 drift vet.
He just
Yeah.
finished that car. That car is real
Rowdy.
sick. Yeah, it's a very nice
You know
car. I
how
saw it
crazy
here
that
in
is?
SEMA.
Got to look into that.
Yeah, the
That's
C8's
one
really
of
cool.
one.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
yeah.
the only C8 in the world. Yeah, well, C8 drift car in the world.
C8 drift car.
But like,
yeah.
like and then weight at the Corvette is what makes it a Corvette. What makes it good? Like that car performs very, very well.
How do you guys feel about like the new generation cars drifting, like the Mark V Supra?
I think it's awesome.
I think it's sick. Yeah.
Well, one thing to touch on too is because like Toyota and GR are all for drifting. Like
right,
GR sponsors like pro drivers.
right.
Toyota sponsors and pays pro drivers, and they pay them a very good amount of money to market their cars within their reasons.
Yep.
As well as Ford too. Like Ford, like Chelsea and Vaughn literally developed a handbrake for the world to use.
Right.
That's crazy. Like, that's like next level stuff.
What,
kidding.
What would
It's
you
just
guys
crazy.
choose? Like if you had to choose a new generation, you
A
can't
new
go
generation?
with the 280 no more.
Oh.
It's got to be a new generation. What are you going with?
I know exactly what I'm doing. You can go first.
I really like the F80s. I mean, they're really, really cool cars.
Those are
I have an
coming.
F30 as a daily, and I
true.
love
The
it.
F80s go hard.
Yeah, I've never drifted one, of course, but like whenever I watch videos of people sliding them, like Taylor Ray and stuff.
Yeah, that's like the most street drift car
Right.
on the internet right now.
right.
Yeah.
So
There is people that I know of building some that's coming soon as a pro build. So that'll be cool to
That's
see.
gonna be crazy to see.
But for me, for a new chassis, I definitely want to do a GR86. It's sick. It's Toyota / Subaru, but the motor goes away anyway.
Yeah.
But people say they're not good chassis because their suspension is very short, but with proper shocks, with Weiss Fab, tuning and all the above, with a good engine, you can make it real sick. And they look very good, and it's a new car. And I actually have a GT86 shell
I
that
forgot about
I want to build next, but the S chassis is just so good, and it's like I know it works. So like my first few years of Formula Drift, when I get to that point, I'm definitely doing it in my car or another S chassis because, like I said earlier, you go in with the car you know and do well. Don't go build a new car and do 4 laps and say you're going to go compete because it's not going to work.
Right.
It might. 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be great.
Are there any advantages to possibly driving a new generation car in drift?
Sure.
Or are there more advantages driving like an older car?
I guess the new cars aren't already clapped. Like that's what you don't have to really usually worry about, like a bunch of nonsense from a previous owner.
For example, like you build a new GR or a new Supra. So the new Supra has a ton of glue on it, like a lot of glue. If you're building an A90, you got to have it dipped, or you got to scrape off all that chassis glue. It's a lot,
like all the seam sealers.
a lot. And
Yikes.
but most cars have that. If you get that off though, and it's new metal and it's not 30 years old, it's gonna weld better. It's gonna be cleaner to work on. It's gonna be nicer to work on. Even some E chassis too, E46s, and stuff like that. They can be nicer as well, but they're still old cars. But the advantage I'd say is to like when you get to a certain level of driving a newer car. Well, first off, if you're drifting street drifting or fun drifting a new car, you obviously have the funds to do it. It's very expensive. And if you're driving a new drift car in pro, it's probably a title sponsor of yours or someone you drive for, like Turco Toyota or Pop Oxygen Toyota and Osbo, and then Vaughn with Ford. Like that's the whole different ballgame. They get all the above they need for their programs to do what they have to do.
It's almost like NASCAR in a way.
Yeah,
and like
it
Formula
really,
One.
yeah. But like that's a whole other can of worms. But it's almost kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that budget difference can make a huge difference at the end of the day.
No kidding.
Yeah, you should see the budgets for just in catering for NASCAR.
Oh,
nuts.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
It'll-
Just catering.
Yeah.
It'll pay for 2 seasons of pro drifting.
That's wild. We're going to pause this podcast briefly just to talk about one of our sponsors, Your Carbon Source. You want carbon fiber? Your Carbon Source. You want to have lightweight material? Your Carbon Source. Doesn't matter what you got. You can have a Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari, Audi, BMW. Your Carbon Source is the place to go. Check them out at yourcarbonsource.com.
So if you were operating with a lesser budget, like let's say under 10,000, maybe 5,000, what would you guys recommend at that level?
For a car?
Yeah, for a drift car,
Okay.
for somebody wanting to get into it.
10,000 for the car, or
So 10,000 budget for the whole
Total.
year
for the season?
for the season, including the purchase of the car.
Don't
That's
even
pretty
bother.
tight,
Don't
right?
even
Yeah.
Yeah, are you talking like grassroots or like
Just
actual
either
grassroots,
or.
showing up to the
Pro-am?
track.
Oh, just
and
having
sliding.
fun?
Yeah,
Okay. I would definitely recommend a Z or a G, like in a second, like a Z or
350 or 370.
350.
Okay.
Yeah, 370 is more expensive.
370 is definitely it'll put you in a different budget level most of the time unless you get lucky. But I have a G35 sedan and I have beat the absolute piss out of that thing for a couple of years, and it has been just a trooper.
Right.
So just fuel and tires every time I go to the track, pretty much, and just do oil changes. Throw oil cooler on it. Literally oil cooler, angle kit, hydro,
Seat.
welded diff, racing seat. Go to the track. I mean, did I miss anything? I can't.
No,
really.
that's really it.
That's basically it. Go to the track, change the oil every couple events, and it'll be a reliable seat time car. I absolutely love my car. It's never let me down. That's usually the case with most people with basic Z's and G's.
Right,
so.
right. Yeah, and it's like there used to be more options back in the day, but now there's not because the car
Yeah.
market changed. Like, how do you guys feel about where the car market is at and where
Oh
it's
my
headed
God.
and the
If-
cost of like just buying a car. Like how much did these used to go for? The 280s.
Oh my
The
god.
240s were like,
I mean the 240s.
yeah,
were-
yeah, the 240s. I mean, back like a long time ago before I got into them, people were buying these cars for like $500 to $1,000
Yeah.
for
That's
a running and
unbelievable.
driving car. My first running and driving.
You said $200.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I mean,
200 for like a clean shell, maybe not running and driving.
no, dude. Back in the day, you could buy these cars for like $1,000 running.
Well, they were like the economy Nissan car, basically.
Yeah, but like I bought a 240, a white hatch years ago, running for $1,800,
Jesus.
and that was a running car. It was not great, but it ran and drove.
I can't imagine
You know.
spending $1,800 and being
Yeah,
ready to go
right.
drifting
It's
on the
crazy.
track these days.
Yeah, I mean, like it's all getting worse. It's kind of evening out now a little bit with like buying a drift car.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Mhm.
But during COVID, right after, it was.
Do you see it getting worse?
Of course it will, but if it gets worse, then there'll be less drift cars, less people doing it
Yeah.
as they get older, or
Right.
they figure it out and they keep doing it.
Right.
Like for reference, whenever I bought my S13, like back in 2017, I think, we paid $6,400 cash for it, and that was a caged 5.3 swapped, running and driving, coilovers, like completely like ready to drive, pretty much car. Just needed to like be cleaned up essentially. So basically, like less than $7K, I had that car back then. So now I think that's pretty much unheard of. I don't know if you'd be able to find a deal like that.
I bought this car. When I bought the car, it was already swapped with the JZ. It was a straight missile. I mean,
that might be a little stretch. I mean,
no, it was a missile. It was a well done car for the time it was, but it was a spray painted car, swapped in there, stock ECU. It was done all right, you know, whatever.
worked. It was
It
fine.
worked. But I paid $8,000 for that car back then.
Yeah,
That car now, even the way it was, would have been 15 plus,
Easy.
just because it has a JZ in it.
Right. Right.
But you don't see the bones of the car until you get into it.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah, that's a whole
That's where all the
nother-
can of worms opens, and then you're spending $20,000 to make it how you want it.
easy.
Easy, quick.
The rabbit hole.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever like looked at the amount that you spent over the years on
No.
is that something you don't wanna
I can't
do?
do this stuff out of pocket. That's why I've really worked to work with sponsors and do my thing with them, so that covers the cost of 80% of the car. To then I get my own income or sponsors or friends that know people to help me get on track.
right.
Yeah.
And you touched on that a little bit earlier that you'd send emails and stuff like
Oh yeah, I mean anybody that does pro drifting out of pocket, you're not dumb.
Right.
You're just not thinking.
right.
Like you cannot do it yourself unless your parents are loaded, which you can do.
Yeah.
But I know people that have tons of money in general
Right.
Yeah.
that have sponsors and do this. Like it's not, they know they can do it, so why not?
Right.
Yeah.
But like, you have to do what you got to do to make it work, and like that's why I've tried to do what I've been doing, and it's just about paying off. The next few years is going to be really, really, really cool. So
I was very blessed to get into it at the age that I got into it at. Obviously, I was 16 and broke. My dad and I had a little deal where it's like, okay, you do all the labor, you being me, you do all the labor, and then I'll pay for most of the parts, and then you'll kind of chip in here and there, and that's what we did. So for years, like before I started making kind of my own good money, I just did all the labor and chipped in money wherever I could, and then Pops, covered a lot of it. So
Right.
without him, I never would have been able to do that, and I still to this day make sure I tell him thank you. So I mean
Yeah.
now,
and now you're about to be drifting alongside him. That's
Yeah,
awesome. It
absolutely.
paid off for him because who wouldn't want to be out there drifting with their son?
yeah, one thing
it's a great
to
thing
touch
to do.
on too is like all this stuff takes time.
Oh yeah.
Like this is like this whole thing, it takes a lot of time. Like just to get to the track. Like
Right.
you got to become a mechanic, a truck driver, buy a truck, buy a trailer.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to be a marketing person. You got to do all this stuff to do what you want to do. Like, and the level you want to do it depends. Like if you're doing it for fun, you got to do half of that. Buy a truck, buy a trailer,
Yeah.
buy a car, work on the car. Like you got to become all these things, and it happens fast. And like that's one thing too. People that come in with money sometimes do not have the skill to match the level of income,
Oh, I've seen that.
and they come in and they're out in a year. They build a $100,000 drift car and they're out in a year. They do 2 laps in a Z and they build a pro drift car and then they go perform.
Yeah, that happens in a lot of
areas for sure, because it's like,
motorsports.
oh, I have the money, but what does it matter? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I like seeing
Well, those are the cars you
underdogs
see
go
that
high.
get into accidents on the street where you just
Yeah,
have
yeah. Oh,
right,
yeah,
a
yeah.
shit ton of money and then a kid just clocks it into the wall or something.
Oh yeah,
It's
but there
like-
is people too that do have money and they are skilled and they do well.
Absolutely.
There is. Yeah, there
There's
definitely
both.
is. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I like seeing underdogs like kill it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Who are the sponsors that you guys work with?
Gosh, I have a good amount now.
Yeah, you got like, is everyone on your car sponsored?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I work with Conze Wheels, ECU Master, Run BC, Brian Crowder, CP Carollo, One Ethanol Fuel, Get Up Real Street, Garrett Motion Turbos, Funk Motorsport, True Focus Fab, Action Clutch, Fuel Suspension, Deeshworks, New Performance, Grip Royal, Fraggy Expect Tune, my tuner, helps me out a lot too.
Who tunes your car?
Fraggy Expect Tunes, right here. He's very, very good. Good friend of mine as well. We're pretty close. He also works with a bunch of drivers.
Really good at what he does, for sure.
And what standalone are you on?
ECU Master.
Okay.
So ECU Master, ECU.
Have you ever used
PMU.
Haltech before?
No, I haven't. But I know Andrew at Haltech. We're good friends.
Okay.
I just been with
That's
ECU
what's going in my
Master.
car, actually.
I'll
Yeah,
take
that's all
5.3.
really good stuff. Just like I try to stay true to who I work with, and like I've only had to leave one person because I had a better opportunity. But it gets kind of weird with that too. But once you build your base, you kind of want to stick with them because you have the
That's your
relationship.
team.
You have the
100%.
relationship
Yeah,
that will go a long
Right.
way. But then when you get the pro spec now, you have to run a Link ECU. You have to. You can have ECU Master Dash or keyboard or whatever.
That's because they're sponsored by.
correct.
Right?
They have that deal with.
That's
Formula
pretty
Drift,
smart.
so.
And is that
It's
because
very smart.
Yeah.
but
is
like,
that because of a
yeah.
standardization of the field, or mostly?
Sponsored.
For
It's
market-
just
for
it's
marketing,
really for
I
a
imagine.
marketing thing, and they just want a company like that wants the control of lots of people.
Yeah, 'cause
and
they
that
spend
is
a
the
lot of
one way to
money.
control people
Yeah.
is making you do something, or else you're not driving. You have to do it.
Right.
But people that are sponsored by ECU Master, Haltech, Motec, whatever,
Yeah.
well, you can keep that company on the car and use the other products like their dashes and keyboards and stuff to like still represent them. But you got to be running a Link
Gotcha.
to compete in pro spec. But in pro, it's free game.
Yeah.
So what does 2025 look for you? What does 2025 look like for you guys?
You first.
Me first.
What events are you traveling to? What are your goals?
My first goal is to get my S13 finished. As soon as that's done, then I'm going to be like just trying to drive it as much as I possibly can. So I'm planning on doing a lot of traveling this year for the first time. Last year, I only went out of state one time. It was my first time ever going out of state for a drift event. It was mid-pond. Fantastic. I want to go back there so bad. I'm really glad they're doing clutch kickers there. I'm really hoping that I'll get to hopefully do clutch kickers there sometime this year. Not sure if I'll make round one or not. It's in March, I think. So I mean, the car's all in pieces
I
right
heard
now.
it's
So.
being pushed back. I don't know for sure, but
Oh, true.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I would love to do clutch kickers. Would love to do some of the slush events like you were talking to me about earlier. That'd be awesome. And just pretty much any like little grassroots event I can kind of find, grassroots comp that I can find, and just kind of trying to have as much fun with it as I can and meet as many people as I can. That's one of my favorite parts about drifting and just traveling around is getting to meet everybody because
Right.
like I've just met so many cool people this last year this past year has been like the first year that I've been like I guess driving like at least an event a month, like ever. Like I've never
That's
done
awesome.
that. So
That's
yeah,
nice,
I
yeah.
drove at least like 1 to 3 events a month every month this year, and it was fantastic. I got so much seat time, met so many people, and just had a ball. So I'm ready to do that this year, but times like 5. I've never been in a competition before. Well, I entered one competition and car failed on me in practice, had an injector stuck open.
Oh,
So, yeah. And that's what kind of sparked the whole rebuild because I was like, I'm going to tear apart every janky thing on this car
And I'm gonna get it right.
and make it right because
Right.
I don't want my car to hold me back again. That was really disheartening because I was killing it in practice.
Right.
The guy that I was having the best runs with in practice was the guy that ended up winning. So I would have at least podium. That would have been really cool to podium my first ever comp, but it wasn't meant to be. Wasn't the best layout.
What
You
was
know,
it?
the firm.
Oh man, yeah, no.
Yeah, it wasn't the best layout. It was really like a sketchy type of deal. But it would have been a good comp to get my feet wet. But I guess it just wasn't meant to be. But
Right.
I guess that's my main thing this year is I want to drive at least a few comps.
And do you
get my
plan to
feet
load
wet
up with
there.
your dad and head out with the Corvette as well?
Absolutely. So we got a 2-car trailer. We got that about a year ago. He's got the big GMC 3500 that we can tow it with. So
Nice.
we're definitely going to be doing some traveling with both of us to wherever we feel like it, I guess. Anywhere, probably Southeast region for this year, mostly. Like farthest we'll go probably be like maybe, I don't know, Tennessee or something. I don't really
Yeah,
know.
come to Tennessee, Slush Motorsports Festival in September.
I'm there. As long as my cars are good, I'm there, man, for sure.
Same.
But yeah, that's my main goal is just get my car done and drive as much as I can and have a blast.
What about you, Matt?
For me, I'm really focusing on the comp stuff. I need to get my license this year for Formula Drift. Like I said, I need to go do all the pro-ams I can until I get the license. If I go do the first pro-am and I win a license there, I'm done competing for the year. I'll just do fun events like Slush, Grid Life, normal events, whatever I want to do. So first things first is to go to East 10 in Tennessee. in March for a doubleheader round. 1 and 2 is the same weekend, and then in April it's 3 and 4, and it's done quick instead of doing, 5 months over the time as 5 months of a competition.
Doubleheader's crazy.
It's a lot of it is crazy, but like after doing it, you get it over quick rather than just do it like that. And if I get the license quick, hopefully that's my goal.
Yep.
Then I'm good. And I can just kind of just chill and just do fun events with the car and do my thing. But if I don't get it there, I'm gonna go to the next pro-am I can go to and try and get it there. And if that doesn't work, which I hopefully it will work, I'll just do my thing with what I want to do. But either
that'll
way,
be awesome.
petitioning for next year too.
Yeah, I definitely hope to see you there. As a business owner, if I was looking to support you and be one of your sponsors, like, what does that entail? Like, how does someone become a sponsor for you? Like, what's the barrier? Or
it depends on what they have to offer and how they can help me do my thing. Like, my main thing is working with good companies that have good parts or good people behind it. And obviously it all comes down to money. That's how you do this. People that have a door sticker, a title sponsor, obviously pay me a lot of money to do what I want to do, or a bigger sticker on the car obviously is more value, but we come to an agreement on what we both can offer each other. So depending on what it is, that's kind of how it works. So like,
It's got to be a win-win type of deal, right?
yeah.
Right.
And then sometimes there won't be.
Sure.
Sometimes I'll get a worse end of the stick or vice versa. Not like in a bad way. It's just like some sponsors have to understand you can only do so much with what you have to offer.
Right.
Just lock in a simple something first, or like, okay, we'll give you half off, or we'll give you this off, or then you work your way down to a full sponsorship. But I've had those as well. But then, I got the discount, and then now it's free.
Right.
Now it's fully back years later.
Right.
I'm still in the like small discount type of stages with my
It's a lot of work, and you have to show improvement, and you have to push yourself and show improvement in skill, program, car, marketing, this, that, in order to continue to grow. Because if you don't, you're going to be standing still for years and just not going
Right.
What do you think is more important, the visual aspect of your car or how you drive, the style and the competition?
Well, that's a thing to touch on these days. It's very nitpicky because there's people that don't have the best performing car or don't drive the best, but they got a sponsor on their door that is killer. And there's people that have a lot of skill and is very, very good, and they're not paid as much or have as big of sponsors.
Yeah.
And there's also in between. But for me, it's all the above. Like right now, this thing is beat up, but it performs perfectly. But I try to be both always. You got to be both. In general, in any racing, drifting, drag, grip driving, whatever you want to do, you got to have both.
So are you going to run this kit for 2025? Or do you
No,
have a
it'll
new
be
one?
different. It'll be a slightly different. Very different kit, and then whole new livery. It's going to be really sick, and I have a lot of plans coming, and a lot of really big news. I'm very excited to share soon. Like I'm very excited. It's going to be crazy. So
Yeah, that's awesome. If someone does want to sponsor you, how did they reach out to you?
My email or my Instagram at Matt Shulman with 4 N's. A YouTube channel, you can comment on there too. And then we can kind of go from there. But it's just lots of back and forth and getting good relationships with people and just, becoming what you want to be in the sport. And you got to make sure whoever you're representing is what you want to represent. Don't just get the sponsor because they'll give you this. Like, make sure it makes sense. And sometimes you have to sacrifice something you don't like to get what you want.
Sure.
But it'll pay off. And I've learned that, and that's what I'm learning now.
Well, I don't know if anything I say holds weight, but from my personal experience talking with Matt and getting to know him, I can see the fire behind him and like the determination, and I believe that you'll be in FD very soon.
I think so. I'm trying real hard.
Yeah, I think if you are considering it, just reach out, have a conversation with him, get to know him.
Thank you.
And I would love to see your journey and you to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Do you try to take time to go to those new drifters and be an open book and teach them? And
if I see someone struggling, I'm like, hey man, just do this.
Yep.
And they'll go, oh, and they do, and they go, what'd you do?
It could be something as simple as tire pressure. Right?
Tire pressure,
Drop 2
alignment,
PSI.
setup, parts are
The
running.
details matter.
This,
Absolutely.
that, that's 90% of the time a new driver struggles or intermediate driver struggles, whatever. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I always
'cause
try to help people.
some people can be unapproachable, or maybe you think they're unapproachable. So it's nice to meet somebody like you that's very authentic
Yeah.
and willing to share.
Yeah, and I have like really bad like OCD and like ADHD, so where like if someone's like struggling really bad and they're just like no one's helping them, it's like I have to go help them.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna drive me crazy seeing them do the same thing every time. I can give them one word of advice and they'll just
Well,
Move
speaking
on
of
to the
you
next
giving people
challenge, yeah.
advice, I just remembered. I'm pretty sure whenever we first met, like the first time we ever actually spoke to each other, was right after I put my car in the wall at Auburndale. And luckily, it was like the,
remember
the
that.
bumper that was in the wreck is up there on the wall. Luckily, it was literally just a scrape. Like I barely tapped it. But
I wrecked real good there one time.
yeah. But yeah, he came up to me and he's like, "Man, you got to enter a little bit slower than that." And that was like one of the first things he said to me. So.
And that was when I didn't know damn thing too.
But you were dead on though, bro. I'll tell you that much. I
know
came in
nothing
way
back
too
then.
high.
I have a very good hand-eye thing since I was even a kid. I don't know. But BMX helped a lot with drifting too. So I always try to help people with everything. So
Right.
Speaking of BMX, do you like to get back out on the bike just to mess around?
I
Have
haven't been
fun?
on a bike in a while. My body's very messed up from it, and I'm like a 6-year-old man.
Trust
under
me, I
this.
feel old too.
I'm-
Yeah, my body feels
my
completely
back, my
different than what
neck,
it used to.
all the above hurts, and like if I get hurt, I can't go drive.
Yeah.
You know,
But even
though-
being in the seats all the time hurts your body.
man, after a
yeah.
comp weekend of 3 days straight or whatever,
Beat.
I am whooped.
Whooped. Like when I have conversations with people where I'm just like out and about doing normal stuff, like
Yeah.
everyone's sitting down, I'm standing up because I'm like I sit down too much. I'm always in a car seat,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I need to stand up. Like
Keep it going. Keep
yeah,
it moving.
keep it going. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because those car seats, man, they'll hurt your lower back.
Oh
like,
man, listen.
Yeah.
Yes.
No kidding.
I need new seats actually. I'm getting that this year.
Yeah.
That's gonna be great for my back. So
What
yeah.
do you guys think about car culture in general and where it's headed?
Ooh, that's
There's so many different areas.
Yeah.
It's like a branch of the government.
Right.
It's like there's so many different things. I hope it goes in the right direction, but there's a lot of people out there that make it go in the wrong direction too. Most of the time, people like that are in it for the wrong reason or whatever don't last long.
Yeah.
And hopefully, people that like it like we do will overcome their choices when it comes to that. You know, but I think it's going to be pretty great in the next few years because like it's literally a business now. Like
Right.
it's,
Social
it's-
media is a business.
It's
not
literally
even
a
social no
business.
more,
Like
yeah.
the whole thing, like
Yeah.
all the fun stuff we used to do, a lot of us have turned into a business and made it our lives. So it's a lot of just so many different things coming together
Right.
in different types of racing or cars or areas in the sports or in the community. But I think it's on a good track. Next year should be interesting with even technology in the cars and the parts that come out.
technology. Mhm.
Is why I like to learn and stuff that the stuff you can do with these cars now is crazy. It is
It
wild.
was like unheard of stuff that like a few
Yeah.
years ago you never would have even thought,
Yep.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have any input you want to add on that for car culture?
Just car culture in general.
Mhm.
I like seeing the new generation coming up in it. Like the people who are like, I guess, 16, 17 right now. Most of the ones I've met around that age are pretty cool, like at the track and stuff. I just hope that I'd rather see those people at the track than at like a takeover or something, of course.
Yeah.
But I guess in general, I mean, I think it's like the whole community is looking up now more than it ever probably has or has in the past 10 years or so. But we just got to all be, I guess, I don't know, responsible. I guess we all got to just do our part to make it a chill. I don't want to see the car community, especially drifting, turn into like toxic like some other communities have turned into, because it can definitely turn that way pretty quick if the wrong groups of people start coming in and.
Oh, it's happened. And
Yeah, I
it
know,
is
I
happening,
know,
but
I know. So
it doesn't last long, like I said.
Exactly, stuff gets shut down pretty quick. So
Right.
I have high hopes for it in general.
So when it comes to drifting specifically, somebody that's getting into it for the first time, do you recommend they practice on the sim and allocate their resources towards that?
100%. I mean, that's cheap seat time. You spend like a good $1,000-$1,200 on like a really nice sim rig. I mean, plus your PC, but hopefully you already have a PC. Spend like $1,200 on a sim rig, and you can just go hours and hours and hours and hours of just pure seat time, and then that translates better than if you've never, people who haven't driven on the sim and then driven in real life, the way it like the way the muscle memory carries over is crazy. So like it makes a huge difference with like you get, like I said, I had 1,000 hours or so on the sim before I ever went to the track. A couple laps on the skid pad, I was already linking it. So I feel like it really just helps kind of shorten that time it takes to get
That learning
decent,
curve,
at least.
yeah.
You'll get over that hurdle, because like the main thing with drifting is just muscle memory. It's like
Right.
knowing when to lift, when to give that little flick, when to rip the e-brake. It's a lot cheaper and easier and better if you're learning on a sim rather than like in a real car.
Right.
And it's funny, it was harder for me going from real life drifting to the sim.
Oh, it is, because you can't feel
I
the
just
car.
kept spinning out.
Yeah, 'cause you
and,
can't feel
I
nothing.
practiced his
Yeah.
before we flew out here.
I will say, like,
he's
when-
a way better drifter than I am.
If
and-
you get into sim drifting first, like, try to experience the real thing as fast as possible.
100%.
Because there are people that do sim drifting that come in, and I can watch them drive and know they're a sim drifter. And there's also very bad habits that come out of sim drifting too, but also a lot of good.
Yeah.
But I've seen drivers come in that have like a ton of hours in the sim, and I can see their inputs and where they break and this and that, and it's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You know,
think just
it's
muscle memory is like the biggest thing. It's
That's
good
the thing.
for.
Like, you don't have that in sim drifting.
Yeah,
You just have what you think you know what to do,
Yeah.
but then you get in the moment and you just don't. It'll cost you.
Yeah.
Or just
I'm just talking
be
about little
good.
things like,
Sure.
clutching in when you're
Foundation.
handbraking,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
type of
Yeah.
The
stuff.
foundation of it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But I've seen like drivers like go drive that are in comps and stuff. I'm like, okay, that
So
a
there's
normal
a-
driver would never do that.
There can be this false sense of confidence.
100%.
That comes with the
Yeah,
sim.
that I agree with for sure.
But it's still a great thing. It's very cool what the technology they have now with
Mm-hmm.
sim stuff. Like, I'm very picky on sims, and I played one at Sim HQ over at Adams, and I was playing that for a long time.
Yeah,
And
it's
it was
addicting.
fun because, like,
Yeah, no
with me, if it's not what I'm really doing in the car, and it's like even just a little off, I don't even want to touch it because I know it'll put me in a bad spot when I get back in the car.
Right.
I don't
Develop
know,
bad
you know what I
habits.
mean? Like, it can definitely develop bad habits, but there is positives on it too.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I said, like, it's great. Just try to get in the car as fast as possible if you can. If you can't, you only want to do some drifting, have at it. Don't matter.
Yeah, that's
You
really
know?
good advice. That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Well, one of the last questions that we always ask anyone who does the Slush Motorsports podcast is we ask you to give one piece of advice you give to any car enthusiast. It can be towards any topic, but one piece of advice that you would love to give to car culture or any car enthusiast.
Well, since he said this to me several times throughout the podcast, I'll go ahead and say it back to him. You can go first, bro.
All right. I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, always ask people questions. It'll save you a lot of time, effort, and stress. But also just like try to keep it in your mind to like do it right the first time, the best you can.
Buy once, cry once. right?
Yeah, you know, like even though like you buy the wrong shocks, for example. Okay, now you know not to do that again. Or you have a new car you're building, and you have a base shell. You could save $2,000 if you got relays, but if you bought a PMU, a power management unit, you could have way better reliability for a little bit more money. You know, even though it takes more time.
Sure.
Just do it right the
Be
first time,
patient.
the
Time
best
is
you
money.
can. You know, time is
Time
money.
is valuable.
You know,
Absolutely.
like it just takes a lot to do this stuff, and you know, when you get to a certain point where you have a fresh start, just try to do it right the first time, and you will fail.
100%.
I have failed way too many times, but like
Oh, yeah.
it's made me grow harder and harder and bigger every time. It's
part of it.
Again, ask questions. Ask anybody questions. You know, knowledge is power with this and anything in life, and then try to write the first time the best you can. So
100%.
Great advice.
I would say for me, it would be build the car for you. As a lot of people would say, you want to build the car however you want it, but also you got to listen to other people when it comes to the car too. So you kind of basically what I'm saying is there's a lot to learn from other people's mistakes, and there's a lot to learn from their successes. So you look at what worked for people, what didn't work, ask as many questions as you possibly can, and from as many people, because especially with cars, I mean, this goes for almost anything, but especially with cars, there's so many different opinions, and it's like everybody's opinion they think's right, of course. But yeah, consult with a lot of people, and then just try to kind of form your own opinion on like what you think you should do to your car, and then build it, and then you can be the guy that people go to and ask questions. So
Yep.
it's
And apply that in real life.
100%.
Apply that in real life.
100%.
We appreciate you guys so much for being here
Appreciate
today.
been
This
great, man.
podcast was amazing. I look forward to
Absolutely.
seeing both of you guys drift at the Slush Fest
Absolutely,
and at your
I'll
other
be there.
competitions.
Yep.
Before we go ahead and close this out, let the audience know where they can find you.
Sure.
And if they want to reach out to you, do you have an open path of communication? Like,
Absolutely. So I'll go first on this one.
You go first.
I don't want to throw it back at you again. So my Instagram is clutchkick.chris. So clutchkick.chris. If you need any help with anything, you want to hit me up and you have any questions, or you want to work with me with something, you can DM me always. My DMs are open. Maybe we can form like we were talking about earlier, like some kind of win-win deal with a partnership. My ears are open. Like I was talking about earlier, I was in the middle of building my 5.3 S13 over there. It's getting a livery when it's done. My first car ever with a livery. So I need sponsors to fill that car up with stickers and liveries. So if you're interested in working with me, we can do some kind of win-win. I'm all ears. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. For me, it's Instagram, Matt Shulman with 4 N's, MattShulman with 4 N's, and then YouTube, just my name, Matt Shulman. I post content on there regularly, more on Instagram, but YouTube still has content. This year's gonna be crazy, so lots of content coming soon on Instagram and YouTube. A full refresh on the car, competitions, big events, big news, big sponsorships coming in. I'm very, very excited. It's been a long time coming, and this year is going to be real big for me, and I'm really excited. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again, and also thank you to Hunter for being here with us today.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it was a good time. Thanks for having us. Let's shut the
Thanks for
garage
being
door
here.
because it is chilly.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really
freezing.
cold.
I'm sitting here
We'll see you
shivering.
guys at the
Dunzo.
next Slush Motorsports
Bye, guys.
podcast. Tune into the next one. Y'all have a good one.
Peace.